10 months ago, I asked, how far can you get in BTD6? 5 months later, after hundreds of hours spent researching, testing and playing, I gave you the final answer. 5 more months later, it's time for the last chapter in this series, as promised at the end of the previous episode. Today, I proudly present the highest round in CHIMPS mode. This video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is a collection RPG with hundreds of champions for you to collect and level up to build your custom team and take on all kinds of enemies, face off against other players in the arena or fight bosses throughout the campaign and dungeons. One of the tougher bosses is the clan boss Hydra, with each head making the fight challenging in its own way. The head of Blight will poison your team and create a cloud that will protect its own. The head of Torment will drag your team down and cause you to skip turns attacking and makes you lose access to your skills. To defeat the Hydra, you have to bring the right champions. The Blight head is weak to fire, and the head of Torment won't cause as much trouble if you have the Veil skill. I like that bosses are not just part of dungeons, but also incorporated regularly into the campaign for the people who like a bit of story to their gameplay. Champions comes in 5 tiers, common through legendary. If you log into Raid on 7 different days between August 22nd and October 23rd, you will get the legendary champion Sun Wukong for free. On top of this, a brand new Champions tier Mythical gives champions a metamorph mechanic that changes the champion between 2 different forms. Sign up using the promo code JTSkin before October 7th and get one of the epic tier champions Stag Knight, as well as a skin for him designed by Yontron. If you use my link in the description or sign up using the QR code, you will get a starter pack with this in-game loot as another bonus, so hit the link and sign up for free. Now let's get back to the video. CHIMPS mode is the last difficulty unlocked for every map and is meant to be the very hardest. The name itself is an abbreviation for the set of rules. It stands for No Continues, Hearts Lost, Income, Monkey Knowledge, Powers or Selling. The true test of a BTD master. Ultra late game CHIMPS is a whole different beast compared to easy mode late game. For easy mode, it was all about rigorous testing to find the best towers and the best positions for them. But for CHIMPS mode, there is much bigger emphasis on the order in which you build your towers due to the lack of money since you cannot farm. Due to the fact that you cannot sell a tower once you have placed it, means that you have to plan ahead a lot more. This meant that doing the research and testing to complete a run of this caliber required a lot of test runs that took an incredible amount of time, but thankfully I had help. In contrast to the easy mode late game video where I did all of the research myself, this time I had a whole team of late game enthusiasts that spent hundreds of combined hours to build a strategy and improve upon it again and again. At this point in the video, you might be confused with the towers that I've placed down so far. What is being worked on here is that we are building a temple, and all the towers placed down so far will be sacrificed to it. We will sacrifice $1,000 of military, $25,000 of support and $50,000 of magic. Each category has levels of sacrifice that improve the benefits you get in return, and here are the exact amounts that we will sacrifice. As you can see, the sacrifices has been well thought out to make sure as little money as possible gets wasted. During round 108, we have enough money to create our first temple. The first thing we need to do after that is of course to give it camo detection using a village to make sure it can attack DDTs. The reason temples are great for late game CHIMPS mode is of course because if you sacrifice enough support, they not only give you a discount on all towers placed in its range, but also makes them do more damage and attacks faster. But that is not the only reason, they actually make you money. In CHIMPS mode, all ways of generating or increasing income is supposed to be disabled, but there is one single thing that isn't, and that is the extra pop income within the temple's radius. The end of round cash from the support sacrifice does not work, but the 50% extra income from the pops made within the temple's range does work. This seems to be an unavoidable bug that has been in the game forever but has gone unnoticed since nobody ever affords a temple in a normal Chimps game. But for some reason it does not actually give the advertised plus 50%, but instead it's 37.56% more. This might have something to do with some layers being skipped and not getting the bonus, but thankfully there are ways to get around this. Some insta-kill methods, like for example Isili's Hex, causes this problem to go away and gives us the full 50% bonus if a Moab is popped inside the temple's range using Isili's Hex ability. Isili is already an amazing hero for late game Chimps, since her Hex ability is so useful against bad balloons, but this makes her even better. We will use her Hex ability as much as possible and try to time it such that they pop when they are inside the temple's range, and we will micro the targeting between strong and first and back again to maximize our income. This bug does allow you to get further, but it also makes the challenge as a whole much harder, since this opens up for many more tower orders and combinations. More possible strats and more complex strats makes it all more competitive, which is exactly what Chimps mode is supposed to be, so hopefully it will continue to stay in the game. Now we're working on our second temple that will have 7,500 in military, 50,000 in magic and 4,000 in support. The reason we're going for 4k support is due to the fact that the bonus income from the temple stacks additively with more temples, and you need at least 4k to get the bonus income. So if we pop bloons that are in the range of more than one temple, we will gain even more money, and because of this we will get a lot of temples. The income from the pops decrease as you get into the really late game, so we need to get temples fast in order to keep our income at a sustainable level. In preparation for the second temple, the magic sacrifice consists mostly of a master bomber ninja. This tower will be great for the save up to afford the temple since its bombs stuns Moab class balloons, and that will play a big role in surviving along with using the other ninja's balloon sabotage ability to slow them down even more. Now that we have passed round 140, it's time to talk RNG. Past this point, every round the balloons that spawn are somewhat randomized except for rounds 163, 200 and 263, and this will affect our income a lot, either in a really positive or a really negative way. Between rounds 140 and 250, the difference in income depending on your luck can be as big as $200,000, which is much more than a make or break difference. This means that you can't just start up a game and follow what I do and expect to get just as far. It took me well over 10 runs to round 170 and above to get this lucky game. Many of our team members has done several times more runs without any luck. In this game I got my second temple during round 147, which is really early, and if I continue to get this lucky with round generation, this will create a snowball effect with the extra income from the temples. The first order of business after getting the second temple is again to get the Camo Village back, but this time we also need to get the balloon sabotage and start working on an absolute zero right away, because without stuns or slows we are dead meat. The balloon sabotage will quickly be worked into a grand sabo, and then after that we will start working on 2 call to arms villages. Again, every single tower placed will be sacrificed to yet another temple, and the amount sacrificed is very precise. Here I want to again point out the importance of using the Hex ability at the correct timings to maximize your income. I had to play every single round multiple times, backing out and in of the game just to make sure I had good timings. On top of this, many rounds will require many attempts just to survive them, since we don't want to buy anything more than what we need for the next temple sacrifice. That means that we can't spend money on slows or stalls, since that would mean a slight inefficiency. The third temple we are working on will get 50,000 worth of sacrifices in the primary, magic and support category, because this temple we will attempt to turn into a true sun god. We can't get the VTSG in CHIMPS mode since Monkey Knowledge is disabled. During round 179 we get the third temple. The placement of each temple is very precise to make sure that they don't sacrifice each other. The third temple we can't give any range upgrades until we have turned it into the true sun god, since otherwise it would sacrifice the other two temples. The True Sun God, or TSG, will cost us $378,000 since we have a 30% discount on the original price, 20% from the first temple and 10% from the second. These different discounts can stack once with each other for a maximum of 30%. This will increase to 50% later with the discount from the TSG. Saving up almost 400k won't be easy. 3 temples won't be enough, so we will need to get not only some debuffs, but also some cheap damage towers. First of all, we will get an energizer to reduce all cooldowns by 20%. This will be amazing for us since we are very dependent on abilities such as Cecilia's Hex and different slows. Next, we get a Call to Arms village and a primary expertise. And then we place the Plasma Monkey fan club and 19 more Dart Monkeys in range of the village. And then the very next thing we need is the Ultra Boost. It can give a maximum of 10 stacks to any number of towers for a total of 66.7% extra attack speed permanently, but you can only use the ability a maximum of 3 times per round and it has a long cooldown. We need to get this tower early so we have time to ultra boost as many towers as possible. We begin by ultra boosting the 3 temples and then start placing some tier 1 towers at the bottom of the map and ultra boost them to keep the engineer busy. These towers will become useful tier 5 towers later in the game, but we can't upgrade them just yet as we still need to focus on saving up money for the true sun god. Past round 200, the game suddenly becomes a lot harder, since now we have fortified bad balloons spawning almost every round. So now we go ahead and get a perma-brew and a support Chinook to fly around to buff every tower, except for the top temple since we don't want to increase its range. The support Chinook will also be used as a sacrifice for the TSG. And now we got everything we need. Assuming we get good enough RNG, we should be able to save up for a true sun god with good enough micro. During this save up, it's time for me to talk about save states. One of the rules for CHIMPS mode is no income. We are gaining extra income through the temples, but breaking that rule is nothing we can do anything about since it's a bug that has been in the game forever. But for this project we will break another rule intentionally, the one that states no continues. If you lose in a normal game you get the option to pay monkey money to continue, but in CHIMPS mode you need to start all over. This can be circumvented by creating a CHIMPS mode challenge with retries allowed so you can retry the round if you lose. But there is a problem. For some reason the challenge editor only allows for challenges up to round 300 to be created, but we will need more. So what we will do is play the game in an actual CHIMPS game, but we will dive into the game files every now and then and create copies of our profile that contains our saves on all the different maps. This is not a feature that Ninja Kiwi has put in place, and I don't recommend anyone to play around with any files unless you know what you're doing. A full guide on the subject will be linked in the video description. So technically we are breaking the first rule of CHIMPS, but it is very common for people to play CHIMPS in this way to get the same level of difficulty without the frustration of total restarts. This project is meant to showcase the most optimal, perfect game of CHIMPS that theoretically can be played. On round 246, we have saved up enough money to buy the true sun god and some extra so that we can rebuy 2 villages and be able to survive the hard rounds just after creating the TSG. Now that we finally got it, we can also give it the range upgrades and the perma-brew buff. The next step is some more cheap damage. A shinobi army with a Grandmaster Ninja and a Master Bomber will provide incredible DPS for the price, along with amazing stunts from the Master Bomber. At this point, the screen is getting very cluttered with projectiles, which will prevent us from seeing what's going on, so we will use a new feature that we did not have available to us in the last episode, the FX slider. Using this setting, we will be able to turn down the size of the projectiles, and very soon I will turn them off completely to have my vision fully unhindered. On round 263 we get temple number 4. This temple and every other temple after it will have 50k primary, 50k magic and 4k support. To create this temple we need to sacrifice some of the shinobis that were in the way, so we will get them back right away. Then I place my boat in the bottom right corner of the water, which will give us the perfect location for the super brittle to be placed on the left platform. As we finish more temples, we will need to move around our ultra boosted tier 1 towers a bit to prevent them from being sacrificed. The lag is getting pretty bad at this point, which causes the rounds to take longer, but it will get much worse as time goes by and we build even more towers. For this reason, most of the gameplay will be severely sped up to be easier on the eyes. Just 13 rounds after the last temple, it's time for another one. The income is now starting to become pretty decent, but we still need a lot more income per round to be able to build the rest of our setup in time. So here we will montage our way through the temple building stages of this game. Now we are well past round 300 and the HP scaling has taken another big jump. We now have 11 temples including the TSG and we are looking to get 2 more. But right now they won't contribute a huge percentage to our income generation given how many temples we already have, and surviving rounds is getting really tough. So we opt to get some cheap DPS. We got the Avatar of Wrath, the Tax Zone and the Sentry Champion, all of which we have already given 10 stacks of Ultra Boost in the early game. We also got a Cripple Moab and a normal Embrittlement Ice Monkey next to our Super Brittle, so now we have all debuffs. We also got an Overclock to be used on the TSG at all times while the Ultra Boost is still working on all the temples. This will get us a good amount of extra damage per second without burning a hole in our pockets and will allow us to start the save up for what comes next. Paragons. The Paragon we would like to save up to first is the Doom Ship. It will run us $972,000 plus the cost of the 3 tier 5s and the sacrifices. So in total we're talking about a save up of over $1 million in CHIMPS mode. And doing that will be very tight with current HP scaling values, but it can be done. Thankfully, we won't really need much sacrifices at all. For a degree 76 Paragon you need 16.2 million pops, which won't be a problem for us, but also 250k in sacrifices excluding the tier 5s. Going for max pops and no sacrifices gives you a degree 69 Paragon, so sacrificing 250k for another 7 degrees won't really be worth it, so we will limit our sacrifices to just a few thousand and mostly go for Paragons around the degree 72 mark. I could almost save up to it right away, but I needed some help. We got 2 more overclocks and also upgraded our ultra boosted spike factory into super mines. And then finally on round 347 we had saved up over $1 million to create a degree 72 Doom Ship. but sadly, we were too late. It was just not strong enough to continue surviving with, so we go to plan B. Instead of using the money to get a Doom ship, we will get a Nav Arc and another temple. The Nav Arc with its hook-in ability will be much stronger and allow us to survive without any issues. The main reason this was not part of the plan in the first place is because it will reduce our income. The Nav Arc will hook in a bunch of Moabs right at the start of the track where they are not yet in range of that many temples, so we won't get as much money compared to popping them in the center of the map. The effect will be noticeable for sure, but it's not the end of the world. It's also for the same reason we won't get the BMA. This tower transforms Moabs up to ZOMGs down to red balloons, which will reduce our income a lot more than the Nav Arc, so this one we won't get until we really need to. We want to go ahead and get one more temple in the top left, but before we do that we need to get something stronger. We will go for the Ninja Paragon next. This game was played during updates 37.3 to 38.3, so this means that the Ninja Paragon has the Grand Sabo ability permanently. It already slowed all Moabs just like a permanent Grand Sabo before, but in update 37 the effect that makes all Moabs, including bad, spawn with 25% less HP was made permanent as well. That means that we won't need to get the Grand Sabo again after getting the Paragon, and we will now have decreased HP at 100% uptime, and it will also mean one less ability to manage. Since this is CHIMPS mode, we don't have access to tech bots to automate the abilities. Everything has to be done manually throughout the entire game. And on round 356 we got the Ninja Paragon to degree 73 near the center of the map. The cost was well over $500,000 for the Paragon, but the permanent Sabo alone is probably worth that price. We also got both other tier 5 snipers in these tiny areas, and we also got the carrier flagship next to the Nav Arc, and this will allow us to move the Sentry Champion to one of its platforms to make better use of the Sentry explosion damage. We also moved the embrittlement to the right carrier platform such that we have the brittles on separate boats but in the exact same spot, which is the absolute perfect spot to have the brittles in according to the testing we did for the easy mode run. We want to go ahead and get the ninja army back right away as it's just too good DPS and stalling for the super cheap price. Eventually I will move 2 of the shinobis and get 2 more top path ninjas right next to the tier 5s. Probably the most cost-effective DPS at this point is buying overclocks. Using all the discounts from the temples, an overclock only costs about 8k and will provide amazing DPS for our temples and other good damage dealers. The true Sun God's range does not cover the edges of the map since we don't have Adora, so we will buy the overclocks in the range of the TSG and then move them using the Chinooks to the areas close to the map borders where they won't be in the way. They are not just cost efficient but also space efficient. In fact, they are so amazing that this means we will have at least 1 overclock for every major damage dealing tower we will get, so in the end we will have a total of 27 overclocks plus the ultra boost. On round 383 we have yet again saved up over $1 million for the Ace Paragon, and this time we managed to survive. Once again we get a degree 72 and we place it at the bottom right of the map. Right after getting it, we want to get the Flying Fortress back as this tower is one of the better damage dealers that we will have. On round 390 we finally get our last temple in the top left, and we will also go ahead and get another normal brittle here at the very start of the track. And as we start to approach round 400 we need to buy more cost efficient towers for DPS, because at round 400 the HP scaling takes another huge step and the bads gain even more HP every single round. For this we will get several Sun avatars and a Mad, and then the save up for yet another Paragon will begin. It's now time we get the Engineer Paragon. At this point we are making about 50k per round, so the save up should not be that long. But creating the NG Paragon sacrifices your Ultra Boost, your Sentry Champion and all of your overclocks. What this means is basically a certain death. So to have any chance of survival, we need to save up much more money so that we can buy back the Sentry Champion and many overclocks and the Ultra Boost right after getting the Paragon. At 414, we got enough to do just that. Since we had so many overclocks, this is the one and only Paragon that will get the max solo degree of 76. And after that we will get the Legend of the Night and the anti-bloon. And thank God we did that, because during round 425, when we get the degree 71 Glaive Dominus, we had no option but to leak the final few fortified bads. This serves as a good example of how close we are to dying in this run. Even though we are constantly adding new high tier towers, we are always on the brink of losing. Next, we get the Superstorm and the Inferno Ring in this little area next to the temple, and then we will save up for the Dart Paragon. The Dart Paragon is not very good, but it is pretty cheap and will free up a lot of space right next to the water for us to place some more Sun Avatars. Then we can get the Plasma Monkey Fan Club back, but only place Dart Monkeys in any leftover areas where we can't fit anything else. On round 434, we get the Apex to degree 71, and then go ahead and place 2 more Sun Avatars, which we will move the Pibro around to buff. And then we also upgrade the Ultra Boosted Dartling to the Bloon Exclusion Zone in the top left. The only Dartling that we will skip in this run is the Ray of Doom, since it is very bad for super late game. We don't have very much space left on the map at this point. Also worth mentioning is that we are manipulating the spawn points of the mini Sun Avatars from the temples to spawn in good positions. There is only one Paragon left to get, which is the Wizard Paragon that costs over 800k. As we are approaching round 440, we are using the Legend of the Night's Black Hole every third to every other round. Using it every third round should always work, but every other round will most often not work, since there is a global cooldown on the passive ability that is 3 minutes long. We finally buy the BMA and make sure every spot on the map is filled, except the 2 small ones that we use for manipulating the spawns of the mini Sun Avatars. We can also use one of them to place the final wizard later to be able to create the Wizard Paragon. At this point, we are constantly living as close to the edge as possible. After a total of almost 70 hours of playing, not counting all of the restarts to get a good RNG game, we reach round 450 in CHIMPS mode. Not long before this, the highest CHIMPS round on YouTube was round 400 by Mass Mapes, but that run was in update 34.1, in which the reduced cooldowns from the Energizer was bugged and applied twice, giving you super short cooldowns and a huge advantage. If someone were to have told me a few months ago that we would be able to get much further than that, getting every single Paragon and filling the map with temples even without the Energizer bug, I would have thought they were insane. But after a lot of work, here we are. Round 451 absolutely required the Legend of the Night to be used. It even took an hour of attempts just to beat this one round, even when using the black hole. And that means of course that 452 needs to be beaten without it. If we manage to survive this round, we will be able to get the final Paragon during the round after. My first attempt was not even close, but many dedicated attempts later, this was the final result. Come on, come on. There's just no way. There's just no way. Unfortunately, despite trying many different things, this round seemed to be completely unbeatable. 452 rounds in CHIMPS mode is currently the highest round achieved, but I doubt it will last forever. The strategy is still being optimized, and there is even an effort to make Adora a valid hero for CHIMPS mode late game. I started this journey by attempting to reach round 500, where the HP scaling ends in easy mode free play. Now, with further optimizations, some theorize that reaching round 500 might be possible in CHIMPS mode. It's insane to think that we have gotten this far, and I can't thank these players enough. They have done so much more work than I have when it comes to all the extensive strategy testing that needed to be done to make this project a reality. Also, a huge thank you to all of you viewers who have done an amazing job in supporting this series. The incredible amount of likes and kind comments really makes these mega projects worth making. So, where does this leave us in the series? Now that we have learned that we can get to round 400 plus in CHIMPS mode, we already know that we can beat round 500 in easy mode, no powers allowed. And easy mode with powers we already did, so is the series over? Is this where it all ends? Or will strategies be optimized so much that a round 500 CHIMPS game using a Dora will one day be possible? One thing is for sure. If it happens, it happens here.